Welcome back to video number 3 in this series on Decisioning AI in Tungsten TotalAgility. I'm still Jesper, and I'm going to be your guide through this last part in this series. In the first 2 videos, we discussed the core concepts of Decisioning AI. We talked about how it fits into the Tungsten automation platform, how it fits in our vision as well. And we also already spent some time in building our very own Decisioning AI model based on data that TotalAgility typically uses. In this video, we're going to bring all of that together, and we're going to deploy the Tungsten Automation Decisioning AI Azure Connector on your very own TotalAgility environment. What we're also going to do is we're going to test and see how it typically behaves. So as part of the connector, you'll see that we have a test harness or test process included as well. And after that, I'm going to talk a bit about how you can then use it in your very own processes. To finish, I'd like to do a quick recap and also talk about some of the next steps, because this is indeed just an introduction to Decisioning AI, this series, and there is a lot more to it, and especially if we are really interested in seeing where the synergies lie in combining Decisioning AI and Tungsten TotalAgility, and of course at the same time where the value lies. So I hope that we're all strapped in and that we're all ready to go. Let's dive into TotalAgility, shall we? So right now I'm opening my TotalAgility environment. As you see, I'm just logged into the TotalAgility designer, and I'm just gonna go immediately into import. So click import and then just import the connector which you downloaded from the Tungsten Automation Marketplace, or perhaps from GitHub or anywhere else. So you can spend some time in reviewing all of these, but for now just click import, and that's going to do it. You might see some warnings. Main reason why we've seen these warnings is because, of course, this is my environment, so it already has certain aspects of the connector already installed, but we're just going to click through that. Okay, now we've imported the connector, and that connector is a generic configuration for using Azure Machine Learning as Decisioning AI in TotalAgility. What we then need to do is we need to integrate the actual model that you've deployed to your TotalAgility environment. So you can go to Integration, Web Service References, and you'll see that we now have this classification web service reference. If you just click that, you'll see that we already have a placeholder URL and also a placeholder bearer token. And you'll see that it says replace with your own. Keep in mind that if you deployed it to another Azure territory than West Europe, you'll need to replace the whole URL. It's probably safest to do that. So that being said, let's go into the Machine Learning Studio, go to your deployed endpoint, open that up, go to the Consume tab there, and here you'll find your REST endpoint. Just copy that and go back to your TotalAgility environment and just replace that. Here we go. Now we need to do the same thing with your bearer token. So again, go here. We've got your authentication. You can click this to copy it. I can just show you because I'm gonna remove this anyway afterwards. So you can just click to copy, or anywhere else you want to do that. Then you open up the authorization, and what you'll need to do is only replace this part. So it does need to still have that bearer and the space before you do that. Here we go. So that's that. This is essentially the only thing you had to do. So if we then have a quick look at the at the items that were actually imported into your system, there are some test forms there too. The main thing we're going to be using is the ML work queue. So what you'll then do is you'll open that up. So it's just TotalAgility/forms/ML workspace. And what you can do from there is have this button there at the all the way at the bottom says new job. It's already going to be preloaded with some sample data, of course, in the interest of making this very easy. And if you remember from video number 2, one of the most important features, and that's of course how we talk about data points when we in a machine learning context, is duration. So what we'll do is I'll just leave this as at 370 and we'll just click validate. What you'll then see is that we now started a job, and that job, if you want to quickly find it, we can just have a quick look there and see which ones we've got. Here you go. So this is the job we currently have, AI decision. Let's open that, and if we then go to view job, you can actually see what's now happening. So what's happening is we've got some steps in that process, prepare data, and then it calls the custom service, which is essentially the actual connector. Once that has been done, we do some more in that process, and then based on the outcome of the decision, we can route this process any way we might want. It could be, okay, well, if this is the outcome, then we go left. If it's the other way around, we go right. If we're uncertain, we go another way. Depends on what you want. But again, this is all very trivial TotalAgility process design stuff. The main feature of the connector is, of course, that custom service, which we've called AI decision. So let's go back to the work queue we had. And if we then refresh it, you'll see that we now have a new task assigned to us, which was one of the process that we've got here. If we go to view job, you'll see that it's now going to this way. So it's false. The outcome was false. So if we then have a look at that, you'll see that the outcome was no. So again, this is going to be a negative result coming straight from that model that we've deployed. What I've also done in this environment is I've included the information that we got from both the explainability analysis of this model and at the same time also that responsible AI review as well. Just want to make sure that these are things that when we talk about machine learning, when we talk about algorithmic decision making, which is essentially what we're doing here with the Decisioning AI connector, that we take those topics into consideration as well. So we'll just complete this, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to do a new job, but now I'm just going to set the duration for 800. If I remember correctly, that's going to yield a different result, but of course we'll never be certain. And we already have the decision come back, and yeah, here you see it, the result now is yes, so that's positive. So again, based on what the outcomes were. So that's a quick run through of the test harness. What we now know is that the configuration is correct, the connector is working, your machine learning model, which we developed in video number 2, is now being used as a decisioning engine within TotalAgility. But what I want to show is indeed what actually happened in this process. So I'm just going to go back to the designer. Here we go. And I'm just going to go into workflow, into custom services, and here we've got the customer prediction customer service, which is indeed the connector that we've now built. So what we do essentially in this connector is we prepare the actual request that we're going to send to the AI decisioning model. We then do that call as well, and we're going to pass it back to the process. What this means is if you would be a process designer and you are being tasked to build a new solution, I would say let's go for a TotalAgility apps. Let's assume I'm a citizen developer. I go into quick workflow where I want to build a new solution from scratch. I go in and we're just gonna build a new one. I'm just gonna call it video. Dive into the workflow, and what you can then do is, of course, you can design the process any way you want. You can add your tasks, your conditions, all of that. So I'm just gonna add a quick task here, and then you are able to go in and say, oh, I also want to add another step where we utilize that custom service. So all the way down, go to Azure Machine Learning. Don't go to Azure or anything else, just Azure Machine Learning. And there you'll find the customer prediction custom service, which is the one that we built. And there you'll see you'll have, well, just two things you have to consider as a process designer. Okay, which of the data am I going to throw in there, and how am I going to handle the results? So that's a yes, no answer that we're mainly interested in. And this is how easy for a citizen developer to utilize and consume essentially decisioning AI with the connector and the accompanying custom service that we now have. It's similarly easy for a professional developer in the professional design environment. It's again just also adding a custom service step to your process, and that's it. That's how easy it is. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. So what we've quickly done is we've seen how you can import the Decisioning AI Azure Connector. We talked about what you need to do in order to configure it. We've tested it. We've confirmed that it's working based on that test harness, that test environment that's included with the connector. And I've shown you how easy it is to then consume this custom service, which is essentially the connector. And going forward, how you can then also start really bring value to your organization by leveraging these new capabilities. So one might say we're done for the day, but I do want to discuss some, next things to consider. And that is, on the one hand, of course, we talked about, this is what we can do in Azure. But there are, of course, other platforms out there as well. But with the key concepts that we discussed in this introductory video series, you should be able to build a similar solution. Of course, the out-of-the-box connector, which you've downloaded and now used, is meant to be used by in combination with Azure. But the connector itself can then act as inspiration for you to build your own connector for either an on-premise or a company-specific AI engine. And the list goes on and on what you can do with this. Another key thing is, of course, if we think back to how we trained the machine learning model in video number 2, we had that data set that we downloaded. And we used that and we loaded that into the studio, and we trained it and we went with that. But now imagine that data already came from a running TotalAgility process. And not just that, but it keeps being fed with data at real time, because a lot of business data is being collected by TotalAgility, it's being processed by TotalAgility, and it's already being used to drive business outcomes. But we then also have all of that data in hand within TotalAgility. So wouldn't it be great if you would then write that case data with the outcome which you might be interested in to use as a maybe a prediction, or maybe you want to use that in further decisioning AI applications. Wouldn't it be great if you can then make sure that that data is updated at real time, and you can also start designing your own continuous improvement pipelines, as in, okay, we write all that data to a database or a data lake, and we keep improving the models as well, but also have that in a continuous delivery or deployment pipeline as well, so that every time that we do see a significant improvement in the machine learning model, that model then becomes available for use by TotalAgility in turn, or maybe even other systems as well. And now we're getting into the realms of what we like to call AI ops, to really start thinking about how we have a lot of data in hand, specifically in TotalAgility use cases, because it's meant for data or content intensive workflows, cases, business processes, the list goes on and on. Then we can see how this can evolve very quickly. Again, these examples are of course very much more implementation specific, but I do want to discuss these in more detail in future videos. And if it makes sense, we'll create additional connectors. But I do want to make sure that these concepts are very well understood. And that brings me, well, essentially to the end of this video series. We've done a tremendous job. We've been able to do a lot in just, well, probably approximately totaling an hour worth of content. I hope you found this interesting. I do want to thank you for your time and your interest. As said, if you've got any questions or if you run into any trouble, feel free to reach out to me directly. My email address is jesper@tungstenautomation.com, so you don't have to remember my last name. And what I also recommend is to reach out to your local Tungsten Automation representative. And as always, our tech support team is there to help you as well. For now, I would say thanks again. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see everyone very soon again. Thanks again. Cheers.